On this episode of Eat, Sleep, Drive, the day has come to sell my Porsche 911. I'm about to go meet the future owner at the airport in a few short minutes. But before I do, we're gonna take it for one more drive and talk about what makes a 911 so special. Hey guys, real quick before we start this video, I am giving away these spare taillights that I had for my 997 that I installed, all red. Giving them away for free. Stay till the end of the video to get details. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Eat, Sleep, Drive. And yes, it's time for me to say goodbye to this car. This is a 2006 997 Porsche 911 Carrera S that will be dearly missed. But I'm always looking for the next adventure in a different car, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you guys. If you saw my last video, I covered how much it cost me to own this thing, so check that out if you haven't seen it. But this episode is the last one with this car, and I wanted to take it for one more drive and talk about what makes it so special. So let's grab the keys and go for a drive. In order to understand the 997 Porsche 911, I have a bit of an analogy. Imagine you come from a big family. You have a bunch of older brothers and you're the youngest. And all those older brothers are very successful. They're high-functioning members of society and whatnot. Except for the second younger brother, the one that's right ahead of you. He's a bit of a fuck-up. And the family is looking at him and looking at you and like, how are you gonna turn out? Like, there's a lot of expectations on you. And to me, that's the 997, because obviously Porsche 911, huge heritage, like amazing car throughout history. And then you get all the way to like the 996, which a lot of people really have a problem with. A lot of people don't like. And that's that like second youngest brother, right? And fortunately for Porsche, they returned to form with the 997. The things that they really fixed are the lack of parts bin stuff that plagued the 996. So the 996 shared a ton of parts with the Boxster, and a lot of people didn't like that. The interior was like really cheap for 911. They were like pretty quick, I guess, but nothing to write home about. Obviously the 996 Turbo was a hell of a car, but the regular Carrera was kind of whatever. And in the 997, when they introduced, you know, like the Carrera S with 350 some odd horsepower, it's a hell of a machine. This thing has a much nicer interior than the 996, and it's definitely faster as well. The 997 gets a 3.8 liter flat six. It's a return to form in every way. The car is super fast and capable, even by today's standards. You look at the 0 to 60 numbers that some of the magazines posted from this car back when it came out, and they're like low 4 seconds. That's pretty quick. But regardless of the analogies and all that stuff, what I really like about this car is that it is fundamentally a 911. And I think this is a great first Porsche, because if you want to buy a Porsche, you want to buy a 911. It's just, the 911 offers such a unique driving experience, and that's why I like this car so much. I've had a bunch of different cars, but none of them drive like this. Like, I've had mid-engine cars, obviously front-engine cars, but nothing drives like a rear-engine car. And I think Boxsters and Caymans are great. They're fantastic cars. Like, they're super well balanced, and realistically, they're probably a better recipe. They're probably inherently better because they're mid-engine, but it's not as unique of an experience as a 911. So that's why if you're gonna buy a Porsche and it's gonna be your first one, you have to buy a 911. And I personally think a 997 is a great entry point into 911s, because it's really the second cheapest one right now. The 996s are dirt cheap. So you could look at one of those, or you could look at one of these for, you know, mid 30s-ish, depending on the condition. And I really don't see them getting any cheaper. Like, if you look at air-cooled 911s, they've just skyrocketed. And I'm not necessarily saying that these water-cooled 997s are going to do the same thing, but I just can't really see them getting any cheaper than 30 grand. It's just, there's too much of a collectible market for Porsches that you could buy this car and hold on to it for a long time and really not lose any money and just deal with maintenance costs. If you haven't seen my previous video, check that one out. That's where I talked about maintenance costs with this car, and it really wasn't too bad. Considering how much I bought this car and how much I sold it for, it was pretty close to a wash. When I initially bought this car, I said that the suspension was too stiff, or a little bit on the too stiff side. I'm gonna kind of renege on that one. I still think it's kind of stiff, but it's not bad. It's really not that bad. Now, I'm still gonna stick with my guns and say that I really have no reason to use PASM, that's Porsche Active Suspension Management, on the street. I really have no reason to do that because it stiffens the car up too much, in my opinion, unless you're just on like a super smooth road, which doesn't exist here in Ohio. So I'm still gonna stick with that, but it's made for a really pleasurable car to drive around town. Some of the things that I'm gonna miss most about it are certainly this engine. Really unique exhaust note, loves to rev, super linear power band. I absolutely love the engine. The gearbox is great, and I think my favorite part is the chassis / the steering. The steering is hydraulic, beautiful, weight, no settings. I don't have to put it in Sport Plus or all this bullshit. It just has one setting, which is perfect. I get a ton of feedback through the wheel, and then the chassis with the rear engine, just feeling that weight behind you in the turns and feeling it kind of move around a little bit on you. It's such a fun car, and it hasn't bit me, like I've pushed the car pretty hard and it hasn't come back to bite me. It's just made for like a super pleasurable experience. After 9 months of ownership, there's really not much that I have to complain about this car. It did leave me stranded once. The clutch went out, and that's a bit unlucky. Could happen on any car, but it did happen on this car. And I just happened to be the unlucky owner who owned it at the time. So it left me stranded once. But other than that, it's been pretty reliable. Some few minor things here and there, but nothing like a showstopper like the clutch. I don't really like the infotainment system, whatever you want to call it. The radio sucks and is clunky. But whatever, I hardly listen to the radio in this car. A lot of times when I go for a drive, I just turn the radio off and just listen to the engine and listen to the induction noise of the engine, and it's just kind of like more of a spiritual experience. But man, really not a lot of complaints about this car. It's pretty close to being completely great, and something that will definitely be one of those top cars that I've personally owned. Well, we're really close to the airport now, where I'm meeting the future owner of this car, who's flown in and going to be driving it about 800 miles home. So I hope he has a great journey. It's been a wonderful experience. Let's go hand the keys to him. It's kind of funny how these things work. When I bought the car, I flew to the East Coast and drove it 8 hours home to Cincinnati. The guy that was buying it, he's from the East Coast, so he flew to Cincinnati and was driving it 8 hours home to the East Coast. It only seemed fitting. The thing that makes me happy about this deal was how happy this guy was with the car. He absolutely adored it, and I hope he has the best ownership experience. This is it. 911 is leaving. See ya, have a good trip.
All right, Kurt.
Surreal experience. There he goes. Goodbye, Porsche. It's been a good ownership experience. I hope it treats the new owner well. I think it will. Appreciate you guys watching, as always. A little bit emotional here. I don't typically get emotional when I sell cars, but I really like that one. This is the part of the episode where I tell you to stay tuned, because I will be replacing it with something, and you guys are just gonna have to stick around to see what that is. See you next time. So, free taillights, all red. I decided to take them off before I sold the car because a lot of Porsche people buying cars just kind of want all factory stuff. So I took them off, but thank you to suncoastparts.com for providing them. That's where you can get them if you just want them anyways and you unfortunately don't win the giveaway, but all you have to do is just leave a comment below on this video and let me know what your favorite video of my channel is, and I will pick one person at random and send them these taillights.